Hello and welcome to ManchTalk. My name is Tammy Simmons. I'm your host, and I'm glad you're joining us this evening. Um, Missed a show last week. Allergies got the better of me, and I wasn't able to make the show taping, so I apologize for that. Um, Summer's, summer. It's now what? We're in our second week of August, second partial week, I guess, and temperatures have come down quite a bit. It's still a little humid out there, but it's only in like the 70s or low 80s. Hopefully we get some nice hot weather in the next 2 weeks before summer starts to dwindle down. It's hard to believe that summer might almost be over already. That's crazy. It seems like it just started. It was just Memorial Day, I'm pretty sure, a couple weeks ago. Um, so needless to say, Dan and I are trying to make the most of summer, and we've been busy with our house and everything, and we're trying to make sure that we get out there, and we're going camping this weekend, and we're going to make a point of getting out in our kayaks more often. So yeah, don't let summer get away from you. Get out there. If you've got kids, get out there and do some fun things with them. If you don't have kids, get out there and do some fun things without kids. Take your dog over to the dog park, take your dog on the trail, whatever it is. Get out and enjoy some weather before temperatures start to drop again. I thought I'd do the show a little different than most times. I'm going to talk about some events first, and then get into my subject at hand, so that way I get the important stuff off before I go off on a rant. I wanted to remind people about some events that happen frequently or regularly here in Manchester, and where they can find more information on a wide variety of events, things like that. For instance, every Thursday from now through the end of October from 3 to 6:30 on Thursdays, Manchester has a farmer's market. It's located at 105 Concord Street in downtown Manchester. Great place to go get some vegetables and there's some other vendors there as well. Again, that's farmer's market Thursdays 3 to 6:30 at 105 Concord Street. I also wanted to mention that just in general, you can go to manchesternh.gov, and there's a calendar on there, and you can click on all sorts of events. They have, events being offered by the Arts and Recreation Department, things like that. There's also events that are out there that are from, other entities in the city, but it is a great place to go and get information. For instance, one of the things I noticed today was that on manchesternh.gov, you can link to see biking and walking trails here within the city, and there's a couple different paths. There's obviously there's the Piscataquag Rail Trail over on the west side along the Piscataquag River, and there's one that goes from Mammoth Road out towards Massabesic. There's a lot of places, and it was neat. So that I found that on manchesternh.gov. Another good website is intownmanchester.com if you want to do things in downtown Manchester. For instance, they have the TD Bank Summerfest series that it's all free to the public, and not this weekend. Well, no, actually this weekend, August 12th, on Saturday, August 12th, there's TD Bank Summerfest Family Fest, which will run from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon at Veterans Park, and there's all sorts of activities and whatnot for you and your family. And that, like I said, is free Saturday, April 12th, and then starting on the 17th, or did I just say April? How crazy am I? Am I like slipping into winter mode? That would be August 12th. Coming up on August 17th, there's a movie in Veterans Park. On the 17th, they're doing the movie Trolls, and on the 24th, the movie Goonies, and you can take the kids and watch a movie in the park for free. Also, one other that I always mention is starkpark.com. They have their music series in the gazebo up there on North River Road. On Sunday, August 13th, it'll be the Wolverine Jazz Band at 2 p.m. On Thursday, August 17th, at 6 p.m., it's the Manchester Community Music School Summer Band. That should be quite entertaining. And on Sunday, August 20th, at 2 p.m. is Spirit of Johnny Cash Tribute Band. Again, those are all free, and you can always get more information about those at starkpark.com. Coming up this weekend, today is the 8th that I'm taping, so this coming weekend is the 10th, 11th, 12th. Starting Thursday, August 10th through Saturday, August 12th is the 60th annual New Hampshire Antique Show at the Radisson Hotel on Elm Street. Entry tickets are anywhere from $10 to $15. That's a huge antique show. All sorts of dealers. And also this Friday, coinciding at the same time, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. is the Manchester Vintage Market. That's the first. I've never heard of that one before. That will be located at the Falls Event Center, which is attached to the La Quinta over there at 21 Front Street. So just on like the roundabout on the Amoskeag Circle. Friday 10 to 3. Tickets for that are $5. I think I might have to sneak out of work a little bit before lunch and take a run over, because that Dan and I went to a vintage fair in Maine recently, and it was really neat. So I think I might have to check this one out as well. Also, this coming Saturday is second Saturday of the month, free day for New Hampshire residents at the Courier Art Museum. You can get more information there at courier.org. I also wanted to give you a little heads up on an event coming up a week from now, August 19th, Saturday, August 19th, from 11 in the morning till 7 p.m. down at Veterans Park is another free event. It's called the We Are One Festival. It's the largest annual ethnic cultural festival in northern New England. It was a combination of the Latino festival and the African Caribbean celebration, and they kind of put them together, and it's now called the We Are One Festival. It'll be food and music and crafts and cultural items. Tons of fun, free for the community. I know the Manchester Republicans are going to set up a table there and do some outreach, and because I do think that is a segment of our community that really does fit best with Republicans because of just because of family values in general. So we're gonna see, do a little outreach there. Looking forward to seeing that, trying some great food, I'm sure. So those are events that were coming up. I wanted, again, manchesternh.gov, intownmanchester.org, I think it's .org, intownmanchester.com, starkpark.com, courier.org. You can always go to amoskeagfishways.org, I think. There's a lot of events that go on in Manchester that are free to take advantage of, and I do my best to try to, share some of those with you. My subject matter, I kind of got triggered because Dan and I are in the process of choosing his employer-based healthcare plan for the next year. It's not been really happy talk about for us, because we had a great Anthem plan. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it was reasonably priced. We had a great Anthem plan that we used with our HSA, and we were happy with that. Unfortunately, apparently a lot of the features of that Anthem plan were grandmothered for the Affordable Care Act. And the trigger to say, okay, no more, now you have to offer all of this stuff and the plan has to cover all these things, caused the cost of that Anthem plan to go so high that Dan's employer had to decide what to offer its employees that was more reasonable. And it's insane because the options, the inexpensive options for Dan and I are going to be like $900 a month. And that's something with a $5,200 deductible. So we're going to have to spend $16,000 a year towards insurance before we get a penny of coverage for anything. That's crazy. I don't know how anybody could call this an affordable anything. $16,000 a year for two people before they ever get a single benefit from their health insurance is just ludicrous. Affordable something maybe, but not affordable care by any means. So that we've been talking about health insurance for the last couple of days, and plus last night we had a Republican event. We have an annual fundraiser at Casey's Rib Shack over there on 2nd Street. We do a tiki event, and we have barbecue and drinks and everything. It was great. We're talking to a lot of great candidates. And I've started talking to people. I don't know if any of you are aware, but I've decided I was going to run for alderman in Ward 10, where I live, and I've lived there for 20 years. And people ask me, well, why would I want to do that? And, obviously the main reason you want to be alderman is because you want to be able to serve your constituents. Somebody's got to be the go-to person when there's a street in need of repair, or when a street sign needs to be put in, or who do you call when your trash isn't picked up? The constituent service part of it. I enjoy that. I like helping my neighbors. I like getting to know more and more people where I live. We obviously chose to stay in this ward when we bought a new house. We could have easily moved to another ward or another city or or town, but this is our neighborhood. This is where we live. We know a lot of people in close proximity to our house, and that was a conscious decision we made. So I'd like to be able to represent them at City Hall, but beyond just the regular constituent stuff that I assume all people want to do when they run for office, I really want to make a difference. I want to start asking the tough questions about why things are the way they are in our city and why things can't be better than the way they are. I'd like to see things be better for more people more often. We can't just have things that benefit one segment of our population and everybody else pays for it. So all of this led me to get thinking about and talking to people about our property taxes here in Manchester. And I wanted to put things into perspective because 20 years ago I bought my first home on Parker Street. And at that point in 1997, taxes on that property were $1,900. Very reasonable. I knew when I moved into Manchester the taxes would be relatively low compared to what you might pay in some of the neighboring towns. Now, 20 years later, taxes on that same property are $3,300. That's up 74%. That's a lot. Even over 20 years, 74%. I mean, that's almost double. That made me wonder, so why is that? And we can all say, well, the city gives us more. But the reality is the city doesn't give us more. I still get my trash picked up once a week. They still plow the roads when it snows. If I have to have fire or police, they still exist. They still have their police department, the fire department. I mean, at a recent aldermanic meeting, even the fire chief admitted that fire calls are down significantly. They're busy actually with responses to overdoses. They're not. The number of fires that the fire department has to respond to has gone down over the years because of technology. There's smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors and sprinkler systems and just better wiring and all sorts of things. So, you got to wonder, if my taxes are nearly double in 20 years, how does that correlate with the where the spending is? Now, 20 years ago in Manchester, we had 16,700 and some odd students. We peaked in probably 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. But 20 years ago, when I was paying $1,900 taxes on my house on Parker Street, 16,737 students. Now we have 14,198 students, 2,500 less kids in our Manchester schools than there were 20 years ago. And every year, if you look at the way the budget splits between city services and schools, every year the schools get a little bit more and the city gets a little bit less. So what does that mean for you and me? Well, without even talking about what they're doing in the schools, the less of our budget that's being spent on city services isn't going to mean you're going to get anything more. They're not going to plow your street more often. The library's not going to be open more often. The drop-off facility's not going to be open more often. You're going to get less and less and less as time goes by, just because it just can't, there's no way to get more. Now, when you look at the school budget side, the portion of our city taxes that are spent on schools has gone up. It creeps up all the time. It's becoming more than 50%. So you look at, we've got 2,500 fewer students in the past 20 years, yet my property taxes, which are half or more are being spent on schools, went up 74%. Something doesn't make any sense there. I'm of the mindset, and people don't want to talk about it because it's a touchy subject, but I actually think we have one too many high schools in Manchester. Nick Pappas brought it up, last year, and it got a lot of grief for it, saying, well, how dare he say we should sell Central? Maybe we should sell Central. I mean, maybe, I don't know which of the three schools, I have an idea which of the three schools I think would be the easiest to sell, and which of the three high schools would be able to expand if that day would ever come. I don't see why we would ever need to expand. If we dropped 2,500 students, I mean, we used to have about 6,900 students in our high school, in our high schools. Now we have about 4,000. That's about 3,000 less. So more than almost half are gone. Yet we still have three high schools plus the technical high school. Personally, I'd like to see us put more money and more resources into expanding the technical high school and shifting more and more kids to that so that they can actually have good paying jobs when they either get out of high school or go to a 2-year community college or whatever the case may be, so that they can actually get out in the workforce and make a decent living. Instead, we've got three huge high schools, which means we have to pay the building maintenance on three buildings. We have to pay the heat on three buildings, the electric on three buildings, everything, all the staff involved in those three buildings. Yet we just simply do not have enough students to fill three buildings. If this was a business model, this would be a no-brainer. We have one too many buildings. And I don't know why my aldermen and most of the aldermen aren't talking about this. I realize that we have a school committee that deals with the management of the schools, but ultimately it's the aldermen that decide what the budget's going to be, and we need to start having these conversations about how we're going to address these increases in spending so that the taxpayers aren't just constantly having their taxes raised and getting less and less for it. So now I looked at some of the things in the past 10 years, just as a comparison. So in the overall city budget in 2007, for fiscal year 2007, was $145,500,000. For fiscal year 2017, it was $165,173,000 and change. So that's $20 million in increase in 10 years' time. I remember back in the days when Bob Baines was mayor, and I remember back in, I think it was 2000, I'm not even gonna venture a guess, but there was like an 18% increase in spending one year. We can't possibly afford to have that. Can you imagine what that would do to our tax bills? I don't even know. So I looked at the school side of things. And actually, I take that back. Those numbers, the 145 million and 165 million, that's not the overall city budget. That's the school budget. The school budget in 10 years' time has gone up $20 million. Yet during that time, we've decreased our student population by 2,500 people. And a large portion of that decrease was in the high schools where costs are the highest per student. If you're wondering where, like 20 million, what did that 20 million go to? Well, I will tell you that 5 million of it went to salary increases. In the past 10 years, salaries in our school system have increased $5 million. And then 10 million of that $20 million was increases in benefits. So at least 15 million of the 20 million that has gone up in 10 years has been in salary and benefits in the school system. Now, some things obviously did go up as well. I looked at supplies and we spent an extra $230,000 than we did 10 years ago. What I did find interesting though was utilities were down. They were down by $8 million. We saved $8 million on utilities. Equipment was down. Furniture and fixtures was down. All the things that I think you and I know that need to be paid for. You have to have books, you have to have desks, you have to have all this stuff. Yet those costs seem to go down and down and down, and the only thing that seem to be going up is salaries, benefits, and pensions. When our student population is dropping 1 to 2% every year, and our school budget's going up, 1 to 3% every year, it seems like we're not doing something right. I'm all for educating kids. I'm all for providing the best education possible. I'm also for protecting the tax dollar and representing the taxpayers of the city and the businesses in the city that feed into the coffers that pay for those educations. We need to make sure that when we're taking money from people, that we're taking it and we're spending it wisely. We're spending it on what we're supposed to be spending it on. We're supposed to be improving education. How is increasing salaries and benefits doing anything to better educate any kids? Now, I looked at pensions because I'm a big fan of pensions. The state retirement, which is most of the teachers would be in the state retirement fund. In 2007, the city spent $2.6 million in contributions towards the retirement system. In 2017 fiscal year, it's like 11.5 million. So there's been, a $9 million increase in state pension funds. That's a lot. That's $9 million a year more than we were just 10 years ago, just to pensions. And again, Pensions aren't doing anything to better educate the kids in Manchester. Now, the city retirement, which is a much smaller number because this is more of this I assume would be the cafeteria workers or maybe janitors or probably some of the aides and things like that. In the '07 fiscal year, it was 823, say $824,000, and now it's, even then though, it's 1.7 million. It's more than doubled in a decade. Also, an interesting little tidbit was when they take the percentage, when they take the salary and they say this is the salary and this is the benefits, what percentage of the salary does the benefit package make? So, if you're paid $50,000 a year and you had $25,000 in benefits, you'd have a 50% benefit amount. In '07, the benefits were 34.7% of the salaries, which was still, I think, fairly high. But okay, now they're 45.5% of the salary. So when people say, well, nobody's getting raises, well, they are. They still get step increases and cost of living raises, and they're getting a huge savings for themselves on the benefit side. Now, going back to what triggered all this in my head this morning is Dan and I are going to have to pay $16,000 a year before we see one penny of benefit from the proposed insurance plan that we're going to have to pay into. And even then, we still have to pay 20% of the cost. So even after we spend $16,000, if we go to a doctor and it costs $300 for an office visit, we're going to have to pay 20% of that $300 forever and ever. There's no $5 copays in my world. There's no $20 copays in my world. While I do realize that city employees, state employees, teachers, etc., are paying higher copays maybe than they used to, because they used to not have any copay, and maybe now they pay $5 or $20, or they might be paying a slightly higher premium, but they're still paying like little itty bitty premiums. They're not paying anywhere as close to $900 a month. You do have to stop and wonder how it is that those who don't work for the city and aren't teachers or aren't police or aren't working for the fire department or for the state of New Hampshire, how they're supposed to maintain any sort of quality of life, because our expenses go up whether we like them or not. The pensions go up, the salaries go up, the benefits go up. All those go up, and we have no way of stopping it. We put a tax cap and a spending cap in place, and the aldermen that sitting on that board, primarily all but Levasseur and Hirschman, they just overrode it. They didn't care. They just spent your money, whether you can afford to or not. And yeah, on your end of things, your personal expenses are going up. Your property taxes go up to fund this, and then all your personal stuff goes up as well. You don't ever get the upside of it. We just keep paying and paying and paying. I went back and I was reading what the overall budget for 2018 was. The budget that they overrode the cap with is for next year is $318.7 million for the city of Manchester. They overrode the tax cap. Like I said, Hirschman and Levasseur, the only two that say, no, we're going to go with the will of the people. I found interesting is Dan O'Neill made a comment, and it was quoted in the paper, that said, I think it's pretty good we are investing in kids, not in bricks and mortar. Actually, Dan, you're not investing in kids. You're investing in pensions, salaries, and health benefits. That's the way I see it. I try not to be anti anybody. But when I look at the numbers, that just seems to be how it is. The pension numbers, the salary increases, the health costs, they go up and up and up every year. And every year we got to expect our property taxes to go up to compensate for them. And I'm confident that if we keep doing it exactly the way it is now, our city services are going to decline. You're not going to ever see more city services. You're going to see less city services for a higher tax bill. I just don't see how it can't go that way. So lastly, I wanted to remind people that tonight is Tuesday the 8th. Next Tuesday night, the 15th, is the next Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting. And I know one of the things on the agenda is the complaint filed by Ward 7 resident Lisa Gravel. and she filed a complaint and asked the alderman to send it to the conduct board that Ward 2 Alderman Ron Ludwig and Ward 11 Alderman Norm Gamache violated the city charter when they voted on the fire department contract that would have financially benefited to their own personal children, which the city charter does not allow for. City charter says you cannot be part of the conversation on anything that you benefit from personally or financially, and that includes your immediate family. And whether people like to think it or not, your immediate family is your wife and your kids, probably your parents. So there was a conflict of interest. They should not have been voting on it. Whether or not the contract passed or didn't pass is irrelevant. When we have aldermen that are blatantly disregarding the city charter that they swore to uphold, we have a problem. And Lisa filed a complaint, and she collected 125 signatures in about a day or so. Myself and Dan are two of those signatures to say enough is enough. The aldermen have to do something about it. We've got to put some teeth in the city charter. Otherwise, what's the point of following any of it? So that's at the next aldermanic meeting, which is Tuesday the 15th. Public participation starts at 7, and the meeting itself will start at 7:30. And you can bet that there's going to be some heated conversation going on that evening. It looks like my time's just about out for tonight. Again, I want to remind y'all to get out there and enjoy Manchester. InTownManchester.com, ManchesterNH.gov, StarkPark.com, and you can always find good deals on local restaurants at Cooptopia.com and Groupon.com. I'm looking forward to getting away from Manchester, just over to Lee and visiting the campground owned by Christine Infantine and her sister. Be camping for the weekend. I'm looking forward to that, and I'll be back next Tuesday to talk to you some more, probably about taxes, because that seems to be all I want to talk about these days. Have a great week, and I hope you tune in again next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.